Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a loaded episode because free agency is officially underway, and the Hawks were really bold in what they did. They were probably the most active team of all of day one. Today is day two, so we're going to be talking about what went down yesterday and what really we could look forward to. So, from longtime big man Clint Capela heading back to Houston, where he started his career and hopefully can end it there, to Karis Levert actually leaving Atlanta and signing with Detroit, to Atlanta bringing in the long-rumored Nickeil Alexander-Walker just to bolster the bench depth and really get a great defender and one of the best shooters in league history coming to Atlanta. Now, obviously, Luke Kennard is not listed as one of the best shooters ever, but his percentages are up there with the greats. So while obviously on lower volume, this is a great signing for Atlanta. Really, everything they did yesterday was great, and we're going to talk about it all. There's a lot to break down. Like I said, we're also going to look towards day two, which is today, and what's really still on the table for Atlanta. At the time of this video being recorded, nothing else has happened other than what happened last night. So if something happens by the time I upload this video and we don't talk about it, my apologies. That will be covered in next episode. So without further ado, let's get into it and start with what the Hawks lost, because while there were some great pickups, the Hawks did lose people. So according to Shams Charania, free agent center Clint Capela has agreed to a 3-year, $21.5 million deal with the Houston Rockets. This move brings Capela full circle. He had a great start to his career in Houston, obviously being the role man for James Harden. It was the team that originally drafted him. He spent 5 seasons in Atlanta. So, while he did spend 6 originally in Houston, he spent 5 in Atlanta. So, you can count him as much of a Hawk as you can a Rocket. He was really instrumental in building one of the league's most consistent pick and roll duos with Trae Young. That was one of the most lethal attacks, and his best stretch was no doubt the 2021 playoff run. We will always appreciate Clint Capela for that. Capela really anchored the defense and provided rim pressure in a way that really defined that team's identity. That was probably the best defense up until now that we had surrounded Trae Young with, and there were shooters on the wings, and it was just a very greatly constructed team. Obviously the writing was on the wall. Capela had obviously regressed in recent years, especially last year. He ended up losing the starting job to Onyeka Okongwu, and obviously Atlanta has made more moves this offseason to bring in big man depth, obviously with trading for Kristaps Porzingis and drafting Asa Newell. It was time for the Hawks to move on, but we have no ill will towards Clint Capela. I'm going to be rooting for him in Houston. He may really not play that much. I don't really like the deal for Houston, if I'm being completely honest. I like it for Clint because he gets to finish his career where it started. However, I don't necessarily understand it because Houston has Alperen Şengün, and they just re-signed Steven Adams for, I think, a 3-year deal as well. So, Clint Capela is going to be your third center, and he's making $21 million over the course of 3 years. I don't really like that for a value standpoint from them, but, maybe he's rerouted somewhere or they just kind of keep him on the bench. Still, after all that, Capela's presence and leadership will be missed in Atlanta. Now, to the perimeter. And this is a little bit more interesting because Hawks fans kind of knew Clint Capela was on his way out. But this guy, not really. It was reported that the Hawks did want to bring back Karis Levert. That was one of the most prevalent storylines heading into free agency for the Atlanta Hawks. But Karis Levert, one of Atlanta's key bench contributors last season, obviously who arrived in the DeAndre Hunter trade, sending him to Cleveland for Levert and Niang and a second-round pick. He's actually heading to the Detroit Pistons on a 2-year, $29 million contract. Just right around the top of the mid-level exception. Maybe a little bit over. I don't really know the specifics of the contract other than that it's $29 million. This loss does sting because Atlanta really had a scoring punch from Levert. He was a vital piece to Atlanta's late game wins last season after acquiring him at the deadline. He brought some great shot creation off the bench, and Atlanta's going to lack that next season unless they make another move. Obviously, they can make more moves. I'm going to talk about that later. But he did bring defensive versatility. He was a decent defender and veteran savvy off the bench. His game is really going to be missed unless the Hawks obviously bring in another scorer. The front office made a business decision here, though, and like I've been saying, and I tweeted it again yesterday, they weren't going to get into a bidding war for Levert's services. As great as he is, and as much as he fit into the culture here, the price tag was simply above what Atlanta was willing to pay. Detroit had more cap space, and they got the deal done. An interesting ripple effect, though. Detroit signing Karis Levert actually took them out of the running for a guy that they also showed interest in, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is obviously heading to Atlanta. It leads us perfectly to the next section. I mean, it was really between Atlanta and Detroit for Alexander Walker. And once they kind of got out of the sweepstakes, it was clear that he was heading to Atlanta. So after the Levert signing, Atlanta quickly rebounded with a signing that, frankly, might turn out to be one of the steals of the offseason. Lots of NBA insiders are giving Atlanta an A-plus grade for this signing because it's at good value. So Shams reports that free agent Nickeil Alexander-Walker for the Minnesota Timberwolves has agreed to a 4-year, $62 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks. Great value for a guy that just provides everything Atlanta needs. It includes a player option and a trade kicker, giving Atlanta some flexibility and also some flexibility towards Alexander-Walker to really control what his future is. The contract is excellent. He's just 26 years old. Na is a prime age 3-and-D guard who seamlessly fits alongside Trey, Dyson, and Jalen and the rest of the core. Everyone's developing, and Nickeil really fits that timeline. We're going to have him, unless we trade him away, we're going to have him until his age 30 season. He's the same age as Trae Young, so there was some real continuity there, and Trae played a pivotal part in bringing him in. There was actually a report that Trae Young had actually been recruiting this offseason to avoid tampering charges. The Atlanta Hawks, Shams actually said that Trae had reached out to them just yesterday afternoon. We don't know how valid that is, but it's not my job to do the investigating. So the Hawks did execute a sign and trade using part of their $25 million traded player exception, obviously acquired in the DeJounte Murray deal, one of the most valuable assets in the NBA. It was a sign and trade with Atlanta, bringing in like a second round pick and some cash. So that move got done, and that was something that had been rumored for a long time, and so it's good to see. NAW has quietly, developed into a strong wing defender with great size and instincts. He was a very valuable piece to Minnesota. He was a fan favorite in Minnesota. Timberwolves fans were pretty upset about losing him, so that should be an indictment on what we should expect from Alexander Walker, really, in that second unit. I mean, it's someone that Atlanta could just use big time. He's a great hustle player. He's also a reliable, high-volume three-point shooter. While the numbers aren't eye-popping, the Hawks are clearly emphasizing a lot more three-point shooting this summer because they ranked towards the bottom half of the league in three-point percentage last season, while being at the top of the league in shot quality. So something that a quick improvement from Atlanta could, really put them towards the top of the Eastern Conference. He gives Atlanta a young, switchable defender. That's the thing. He's a great two-way player. He's a great hustle player. He can guard 1 through 3 and provide spacing and some secondary ball handling. He's good with the ball in his hands, but he excels off the ball. He's a good cutter. He can hit the corner 3. He moves off the ball around off-ball screens. Can hit shots on the wing. He's a tremendous fit, and he's locked in for 4 years. That is a huge win for Atlanta, and I'm really excited to see him play alongside Dyson Daniels. I mean, that defensive duo, whether in the starting lineup or in the second unit, is going to be lethal. It's going to be really hard for opposing guards or really just the opposing team in general to score on them, because you got to get past Alexander Walker and Daniels. Then if you get towards the paint, you got Okongwu and Porzingis and Jalen Johnson and Zachary Risache. I mean, Atlanta's in a great position. The offseason has been great so far. So now we're going to move on and talk about the other guy that the Atlanta Hawks signed yesterday. They're getting really active in free agency. So if you thought that was it, think again. The Hawks also reached an agreement with Luke Kennard on a 1-year, $11 million deal. I actually wrote an article about Kennard just early yesterday, and 4 hours later, he's on the Atlanta Hawks. So it was great timing, and I guess a great call by me. I said that the Hawks should sign him because I really like what he brings to the table, especially for an Atlanta Hawks team who's going into a pivotal season. So, I mean, this is another smart, targeted signing. Kennard statistically is one of the best three-point shooters in NBA history. Let me say that again, in history. His career shooting mark from deep is 43.8%. We kind of covered this last episode, but we were a little wrong about the specifics. It ranks 3rd all-time among qualified players. So not everyone qualifies because there's a certain amount of shots that you have to at least attempt before you can qualify for that mark. So he's clearly done it on good volume. So this isn't just like a little fling. This is something that has been there over the course of his career. He's super efficient. 1 year he actually shot 49.4% from 3. I think that was 2022. 50% from 3 on good volume is just absolutely ridiculous. And it's kind of like a Garrison Matthews replacement for Atlanta. He shouldn't really get big minutes next year, but this is someone who absolutely could. Trae Young might average like 20 assists with the new shooters that he has with Alexander Walker, Kennard, and now Porzingis. I mean, look, like I said earlier, the Hawks shot 35.8% from 3 last season, putting them in the bottom half of the league. It was a glaring weakness, and new GM Onzi Saleh wasted no time addressing it. I mean, he became GM just a month or two ago, and right as the offseason got started, right when the finals concluded, he got to work and has really given hope to Hawks fans and really provided this organization with some life. I mean, they were already going in the right direction, but this offseason is really stamping that. I mean, with the additions of Kristaps Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and now Luke Kennard, Atlanta is clearly prioritizing perimeter shooting and lineup flexibility. So what I also want to mention is that Atlanta used their trade player exception, obviously, so that's gone because it has to be used in one deal. However, they still have about $7 million left in the mid-level exception because they used some of it, obviously, for Luke Kennard. So he gives the team a lethal floor spacer who can operate off screens and, I mean, create panic in defenses the moment he steps beyond the arc. So it's a one-year deal and with virtually no downside. So I mean that's just super awesome, and the Hawks are going to have a lot at stake, really. So now we're going to kind of look ahead to day 2 of free agency, which is actually today, and seeing what the Hawks could really do. I mean there's plenty of avenues they could take. So looking ahead, Atlanta still has 3 open roster spots and about $7 million left in their mid-level exception, something that is very useful and something that they could really address their depth with, and maybe even bring 3 guys using that. There are a couple of key areas the front office will likely address. There are a few missing holes in the roster that could be addressed in these moves. So, I mean, shot creation in the second unit is a big one. I mean, losing Karis Levert kind of hurts that because as good as Nickeil Alexander-Walker is, he's a little limited creating shots. He thrives more off the ball and really in defending. And then obviously the other guys they brought in for the second unit, Luke Kennard, while he is an underrated playmaker, they need a real shot creator. And maybe they believe in Kobe Buffkin and don't bring anyone in. However, I just want some insurance there, someone to really give Kobe Buffkin an edge. And also front court depth. I mean, while we have really addressed front court depth this offseason in the Porzingis and Newell pickups, getting another cheap, versatile big could really benefit the Atlanta Hawks moving forward. And just kind of giving them an option, a fallback option if there were an injury to Porzingis or Okongwu or Johnson, which is something that could very well happen. I mean, God forbid, that would really be bad to have another big-time injury next season, but you never know. The NBA is very unpredictable. So here are some of the notable names that are still available that Atlanta should really consider. Chris Paul, a veteran playmaker, could mentor Trey and help control the second unit and kind of give a similar feel to the starting lineup and the second unit when Trey goes to the bench. I would really like that. I mean, he wouldn't cost too much. He'd be a couple $1 million maybe. Another guy that's kind of in that same realm is Russell Westbrook. He's got a lot of energy still, a lot of experience, and he's a good shot creator off the bench. He could kind of, fill the stop gaps and really, provide Atlanta with a good veteran presence. I believe that Russell Westbrook has, gotten treated a little unfairly in his NBA career, especially now. I think he can still contribute. He was great for Denver in the playoffs last season and should be someone Atlanta considers just bringing in for a couple $1 million. A young option that Atlanta could potentially bring in at point guard is Trey Mann. Someone who I would really like, although he may cost too much. I don't want to spend all $7 million we have left on one specific guy. He's a young option who can score in bunches. A guy that I think that Atlanta should really focus on bringing in is DeLon Wright. So he's a fan favorite. Obviously, we remember DeLon Wright from the year after Atlanta went to the playoffs and, obviously went to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's a defensive ace still. He's a great defender and a good veteran presence. It would be great to see him return because he wouldn't really take the spot from Kobe Buffkin as that backup point guard. But, if Kobe's struggling, DeLon could come in as a good insurance option. And he's always a good piece to have if you want to contend, really. Another internal option, DeLon Wright's not an internal option, but a real internal option for Atlanta that I think they actually will bring back is Larry Nance Jr. We've talked about Larry Nance and his contributions and what he really brings to the table as, potentially a third big. I think Atlanta should prioritize bringing him back. I mean, he's still versatile, switchable, and he's tough. He developed great chemistry with the rest of the team. He's been a great veteran leader, and I think Atlanta should really try to bring him back if he wants like $3 or $4 million, or maybe even the minimum, because he is a veteran. He might want to win, and Atlanta's in a good spot to win next year. So Atlanta should try to bring him back. There's 2 other cheap options at the big that are still available. Thomas Bryant from Indiana and Jackson Hayes from the Lakers. Neither of those guys would be guys that we would really want to play on the regular. However, both are still valuable pieces that are good fallback options as that third big. One guy that I'm a little interested in, and I know it might be controversial, but I've been a fan of him, and I think that he would be a great fit with the Atlanta Hawks. Ben Simmons. Like I said, might be a little controversial, but I think the Hawks should at least take a look. He's still a plus defender. He's an excellent passer, and at this stage, I mean, taking a low risk flyer off the bench couldn't really hurt. I mean, he wouldn't demand more than just a couple $1 million because his value around the league is very low, but he addresses several problems for the Atlanta Hawks, such as shot creation off the bench, a facilitator off the bench, and kind of a third big off the bench. He can play 5 positions. That's rare, that kind of versatility. So I think it's something Atlanta should at least give a look. I mean, maybe he can have a career revival with the Hawks, the team that really kind of ended his career as we once knew it. So I mean, Nance, Wright, and maybe Simmons all bring different elements that could really help Atlanta round out its depth chart in creative ways, and I think they're going to explore all those options. So to recap, Clint Capela is back in Houston, where it all got started. Karis Levert, the Hawks scorer off the bench, is now headed to Detroit. A brutal blow to the second unit, but the Hawks responded by bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a team-friendly long-term deal. Just a great move by the front office. And they added one of the best shooters in the NBA, Luke Kennard, really bolstering that second unit and giving Hawks fans some hope that they really haven't had in a long time. This has been an assertive, intentional start to free agency for Anzi Saleh and the Atlanta Hawks front office. They're clearly prioritizing defense, shooting, and lineup versatility, all the keys that it takes to win in today's NBA. I think the results are already showing some promise. I mean, obviously, we will know that come preseason. Just how well the lineups really mesh together. But it's really promising, and I think they're heading in more than the right direction. So we'll be tracking all of Day 2's action and what the Hawks do with these final roster spots. So be sure to follow me on Twitter at LangleyATL. I'm going to have every single update for y'all, real-time updates, and obviously subscribe here on Hawks Latest, as we're going to be pushing out videos every single day, giving you full breakdowns on what Atlanta did over the course of the last day during free agency. So until next time, thank you guys for watching. Once again, I'm Zach Langley, aka LangleyATL, and I'll see you guys next time.